Two moms. Same town, same year, same baby, same paycheck. One quits her job to stay home. One goes back to work and pays for daycare. 10 years later, one of them is roughly $170,000 ahead. And it is not the one most people guess. And it is not for the reason most people guess either. In this video, I'm going to walk you through both of their lives year by year with a running total on the screen the entire time so you can see exactly where the money moves, including the two costs almost nobody counts. And I'll show you the exact point where the answer flips, because it does flip. And if you're in a high-cost city or you've got 2 kids under 5, it may flip for you. This is not a video about which choice makes you a better mom. I've stood on both sides of this decision inside my own house, and I have opinions about neither of them. This is a video about the number, because the number is the one part of this decision nobody will actually show you. Because if you've ever done this math on the back of an envelope at midnight, my paycheck, minus daycare, minus gas, and stared at what was left and thought, why am I even doing this? If you've ever felt that quiet sting, handing your baby to someone else at 7 in the morning so you can go earn what feels like nothing. Or if you felt the other side, the slow panic of watching your career drift while your friends move up, wondering if you'll ever get back in, then this is your video. Both of those feelings are rational. Both of them are looking at a real number. They're just not looking at the same number. I'm Elora, and this is the Finance Mom HQ, where we talk about the money stuff nobody ever actually sits moms down to explain. So let me introduce you to Jess and Nadia. Not real people. I built them from national averages so we could see the whole picture. Everything about them is identical on the day their babies are born. Their partners each earn about $62,000. Jess and Nadia each earn about $46,000 a year. A real, ordinary, middle-of-the-country salary, not a tech job. 1 newborn each. Same rent, same car, same grocery bill. The only difference is one decision. Jess stays home until her daughter starts kindergarten. Nadia goes back to work after leave and puts her son in daycare. Here's the running total. Right now, it says 0 for both of them. Let's walk the years. Year 1. This is the year the stay-home instinct feels the most right. And here's why. Nadia's $46,000 doesn't come home as $46,000. As the second income in the house, it gets taxed at the household's top rate, plus payroll taxes. So call it about $32,000 actually landing in the account. Now subtract infant daycare, which nationally runs somewhere around $1,200 a month for a center. That's $14,000 and change a year. And in plenty of cities, it's a lot more. Subtract the commute, gas, parking, or a transit pass. Call it a couple hundred a month. And subtract what I call the working mom tax. The wardrobe, the lunches you didn't pack, the takeout on the nights nobody has anything left. Another $150 a month. And honestly, that's polite. She does get some help back. A dependent care account lets her pay part of the daycare with pre-tax dollars. And there's a childcare tax credit on top. Call that a little over $1,600 a year back in her pocket. And there are 2 smaller lines that most envelope math forgets entirely. So let me put them on the board. Sick days. A baby in daycare gets sick. A lot that first year. And every one of those days is a day Nadia is either burning paid leave or losing pay, plus a doctor's copay. And the backup care scramble. The snow day, the daycare closure, the week the center has a stomach bug going around, when Nadia is paying a sitter on top of the daycare bill she's already paying. None of those are dramatic. All of them are real. And all of them land in the same year on the same tired person. Add it all up, and Nadia's first year of working nets her about $15,000, roughly $1,250 a month for a full-time job plus a baby in daycare. Jess's line says 0, but she also spent 0 on daycare, 0 on the commute, and she's home with her baby. So the board reads, Nadia plus $15,000, Jess 0. And here's what that $15,000 looks like from the inside. I've lived that year. It looks like a 6 a.m. daycare drop-off, a full work day, a pickup you're late for, and a paycheck that, after the daycare autopay hits, feels like it barely happened. It's a lot of hard days for not a lot of money. If you've ever looked at that number and quit, I get it completely. And if you're Jess in this year, home with a newborn, no paycheck, and a partner's income that suddenly has to stretch across 3 people, that's not free either. Jess's year 1 is quieter on the spreadsheet and just as hard on the ground. There's also a version of Jess's year 1 that people romanticize, and I don't want to. Going from 2 incomes to 1 isn't just losing Jess's $46,000. It's every one of the household's fixed costs, the rent, the car payment, the insurance, now sitting on a single paycheck. The margin for anything going wrong gets thin fast. Both of these women had a hard first year. They just paid for it in different currencies. But that first year is where almost everyone stops doing the math. So let's keep going because the story changes. Years 2 through 5, daycare gets cheaper as the baby gets older. The toddler and preschool rates run below the infant rate. And Nadia's salary gets its ordinary little raise each year. So her net creeps up, about $16,000 in year 2, closer to $19,000 in year 3, $21,000, then $22,500 by year 5. Nothing dramatic. But by the end of year 5, the day both girls start kindergarten, the running total reads: Nadia plus $94,000, Jess, 0. That $94,000 overstates the gap in one way and understates it in another. It overstates it because Jess wasn't doing nothing. She was doing unpaid work that would have cost real money to replace. A full-time nanny in most of the country runs more than Nadia's entire daycare bill. Jess's labor had genuine value. It just wasn't paid in dollars. And we're tracking dollars because dollars are what pay the mortgage in year 20. And it understates the gap because I've quietly given Jess a break. I assumed she has 0 costs of being home. In reality, a lot of families find that the at-home parent's free year isn't free. A car that now needs to make more trips, a bigger grocery bill because everyone's home for lunch, the activities and classes and playgroups that fill the days. Small stuff. But small stuff times 5 years is not small. A lot of you are already thinking it. What about a second baby? If Nadia has a second child in year 3, her daycare bill roughly doubles for a couple of years, and her net drops hard. In a lot of cities, it briefly goes negative. That's the flip condition, and it gets its own moment at the end. For now, we follow one child, so the comparison stays clean. And here's cost number 1 that almost nobody counts: retirement. Every one of those 5 years, Nadia put a slice of her paycheck into her retirement account, and her employer matched it. An average match runs somewhere around 5% of salary. Jess had no paycheck, so there was no match. By the end of year 5, Nadia's retirement account has about $27,000 in it, growing on its own, half of which her employer put there for free. Jess's has 0. That gap will keep compounding for 30 more years, whether or not anyone thinks about it again. Year 6, both kids are in school. This is the year everyone assumes the two lines merge. Jess goes back to work, the daycare bill is gone for both of them, and now they're even. That's what I assumed too. It's wrong, and it's wrong because of cost number 2, the biggest one in the whole video. Jess goes back to work in year 6. Same field, same effort. But she doesn't walk back in at what she'd be earning if she'd never left. Study after study on this shows the same thing. A multi-year gap comes with a lasting pay penalty. And for mothers, it's not small. Depending on which research you read, it's somewhere between 15 and 30% of earnings for years afterward. I used 20%, which is on the gentle side. So in year 6, Nadia's ordinary raises have carried her to about $53,000. Jess comes back in around $42,500, the same job, roughly $10,000 less, and she now has the same after-school care and commuting costs Nadia does. And here's the part that hurts. Jess doesn't just start lower. She starts lower and stays lower, because every future raise is a percentage of a smaller number. Let me make that concrete, because 20% sounds abstract. Picture 2 women interviewing for the same role in year 6. One has 5 consecutive years of experience and a track record at her last employer. One has a 5-year gap on the resume, an entirely legitimate one, and has to explain it, catch up on tools and systems that changed while she was out, and often accept a title a rung below where she left. She's not less capable. The market just prices the gap. And it prices it every year afterward because her next raise, her next negotiation, her next job offer are all anchored to that lower re-entry salary. That's what the researchers mean when they say the penalty is lasting. It's not one bad year. It's a lower launch point for every year that follows. Watch the board. Year 6, Nadia nets about $29,000. Jess nets about $22,000. Year 7, $30,000 and $23,000. 8, $31,000 and $25,000. 9, $33,000 and $26,500. Year 10, $34,000 and $28,000. 10 years after the babies were born, here is where the running total lands. Nadia has brought home about $252,000, net of every single cost of working. Jess has brought home about $125,000. That's a gap of roughly $127,000 in take-home pay. Add the retirement accounts. Nadia's has grown to about $69,000, Jess's to about $26,000, and that's another $42,000. Total 10-year gap, about $170,000. And here's what I want you to notice about that number. Only $94,000 of it came from the 5 daycare years, the years everyone argues about. The other $76,000 came from years 6 through 10, after daycare was gone, from the pay penalty and the missing match. The most expensive part of staying home isn't the years you're home, it's the years after. So does that mean going back to work always wins? No. This next part is the part that decides your answer, not Jess's. The whole comparison turns on one number: how much your daycare costs relative to your take-home pay. In year 1, Nadia's job breaks even, nets zero, if her daycare bill climbs to roughly $2,400 a month. Nationally, one infant in a center runs around $1,200, so she's comfortably above water. But in a high-cost metro, one infant alone can run $2,000 or more. And with 2 kids under 5, the daycare bill roughly doubles, and Nadia's year 1 number goes negative. She is literally paying to go to work. In that scenario, staying home is the right call on the year 1 math, no question. And no amount of, but the retirement match, changes what's happening at the kitchen table this month. Your family is probably one of 3 versions of this. Version 1, national average daycare, 1 kid, a $46,000 job. That's Nadia. Working nets a modest amount in year 1 and pulls away hard by year 10. The number favors going back, and the size of the gap is mostly the years after daycare. Version 2, expensive metro, 1 kid, infant care at $2,000 a month or more. Nadia's year 1 net shrinks to a few $1,000s, or to nothing. Year 1 is a genuine wash. Working still wins across 10 years because of the match and the pay penalty, but the first 2 years feel like working for free, and a lot of families reasonably decide they can't sustain that. Version 3, 2 kids under 5, anywhere but the cheapest states. Daycare bill roughly doubles. Nadia's year 1 and year 2 net goes negative. She is paying money to go to work. In this version, staying home wins the early years outright. And if the household simply can't float a negative number for 2 years, staying home isn't a preference, it's arithmetic. And there's a 4th version that never makes it into the argument because it doesn't fit neatly on either side: the middle path. Part-time or a job that flexes around school hours, or a smaller freelance income from home. On the spreadsheet, it looks like the worst of both: a fraction of the paycheck, a fraction of the daycare bill. But it quietly solves the 2 biggest problems in this entire video. It keeps the retirement account alive, even at a smaller number. And it keeps the resume warm, which means when the kids are in school and you want to step back up, there is no 5-year gap to explain and no 20% penalty waiting. In my model, a Jess who worked even 2 days a week during those 5 years, earning maybe a third of her old salary, paying a fraction of the daycare, comes out roughly halfway between the 2 women at year 10, and closes most of that remaining gap by year 15, because she never had to re-enter from 0. It's not the loudest option. For a lot of families, it's the smartest one. But, and this is the honest whole picture, even in versions 2 and 3, the 10-year story doesn't fully reverse, because the pay penalty and the lost match are still waiting in years 6 through 10. What the high daycare scenario actually says is, the cost of staying home is real, and it's paid later. So if you stay home, and for many families that is absolutely the right decision, the number says to stay home with your eyes open. Keep 1 foot in the door, and I mean this practically, not as a slogan. A few hours a week of freelance or contract work in your field, 1 certification a year, staying in touch with 2 former colleagues so the phone still rings. Every one of those shrinks the re-entry penalty, and the penalty is the biggest number in this whole video. And keep the retirement account alive. A spousal IRA exists precisely so a parent with no paycheck can still contribute in their own name, and even a small amount going in each year means the compounding doesn't stop cold for 5 years. Nadia's $27,000 didn't come from a big salary. It came from not stopping. And if you go back to work and the year 1 number looks pitiful, $1,200 a month for all that effort? The number says, you're not working for $1,200 a month. You're working for the $1,200 plus the match, plus the raises, plus the career you don't have to rebuild. Year 1 is the worst year. It gets better every year after. So that's Jess and Nadia. Same start. One decision, about $170,000 apart in a decade, mostly from costs nobody puts on the envelope. If you're in this decision right now, do the version of this math with your own numbers. Your take-home at the household's top tax rate, your actual daycare quote, your commute, and, the two everyone skips, your employer match, and what a 5-year gap does to your future paychecks. Those two are the whole story. I'll tell you where I actually landed on this, because you know I don't hand out numbers I haven't lived. When Ethan was born, I ran the year 1 version of this exact math, and it looked so bad I almost quit on the spot. David and I sat at the kitchen table with a napkin, and it worked out to just about nothing after daycare. What kept me working wasn't the napkin. It was a friend who made me add the 2 missing lines, the match and the gap, and the napkin math flipped completely. Different families will land differently, and that is genuinely fine. But nobody should make this decision on the year 1 number alone. So tell me, which side of this are you on? Or which side did you choose? Stay home, go back, or something in between? Drop it in the comments and tell me if the number surprised you, because I genuinely want to know whether the years after part lands the way it landed for me. Next time on the actual numbers, I'm running the one everybody in my inbox keeps asking about. Paying off the house early versus investing the difference, with the running total, all the way to the end. I'm Elora. This is the Finance Mom HQ. Raising kids and retirement funds. Go take care of both, and I'll see you in the next one.